I'm not going to sugarcoat it. What I'm about to tell you will keep you up at night. I used to think the dark web was just some myth, an urban legend for bored internet users who got off on paranoia. But then one night, I stumbled across something that changed everything. And now, well, now, I can't shake the feeling that it's still watching me. Let me set the scene for you. I was just like you, sitting in my shitty one-bedroom apartment, staring at my computer screen, scrolling through job listings that seemed more like cruel jokes than actual opportunities. My name's Evan, by the way. I'm not some career hacker or some edgy dark web expert. I'm just a guy who was drowning in student loans, rent overdue, and no way out. I was desperate. I needed money. More than anything, I needed a way to feel like I wasn't stuck. And that's when I found the link. It was buried in some obscure tech forum, the kind of place where you read about other people's failed startups and crazy conspiracy theories. But this one was different. The title was too good to ignore. It simply said, "Earn more than you ever thought possible. Apply now." At first, I thought it was one of those clickbait scams. You know, the kind where they promise you millions, but all you end up with is some crappy newsletter. But this was different. The post had no contact details, no fancy company name, just an encrypted link. It took me a few seconds, but I clicked it. Why not? What did I have to lose? I wasn't ready for what happened next. The website that opened wasn't like anything I'd seen before. It was a black screen with just a few lines of text in cryptic green font. Looking for a data manager, it said. High salary, immediate hiring. Apply now. There was something about the way it was phrased. Too simple, too easy. But I clicked the accept button anyway. My hands were shaking as I filled in my details. Name, age, location. Just basic stuff. And then I pressed submit. The screen flickered for a second, and I saw it. Welcome aboard. We trust you'll find the work fulfilling. And that was it. The message disappeared, and a new task appeared in front of me. It wasn't anything special. At least, not at first. The job seemed like it could have been anything. A simple data sorting gig, the kind of thing I could do in my sleep. I was supposed to go through some encrypted files, organize them, and then delete certain documents. No big deal, right? I didn't even think twice. I mean, it wasn't like I had any reason to question it. It felt like an answer to my problems. Money, a way out, a fresh start. But as I dug into the files, I started noticing things. The documents weren't just numbers or names. They were images, disturbing, blood-soaked images. Faces I couldn't recognize, places I'd never seen. It was like I had opened a window into something dark. I shouldn't have kept going, but I did. Curiosity, greed, whatever you want to call it, it took hold of me. I thought, just finish this and it'll all be over. So, I followed the instructions. I deleted what they told me to, but that's when things started going wrong. I hit enter to submit the task, and the screen went black for a moment. Then, in bold red letters, a message flashed across the screen. You should have never seen that. You're part of this now. I froze. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was just a glitch, but my phone rang just then, breaking the silence. It was an unknown number. I didn't answer, but the message was clear. We see you. Then the lights flickered. I could feel my heart beating faster. That's when I realized something was wrong. But what could I do? I needed the money. I needed to finish what I started. Another task popped up. This one was different. This one said, terminate client 47. Terminate. The word hit me like a slap in the face. I thought it was just another file deletion, another simple task. but something about it felt wrong. I didn't ask questions. I did what they told me. But that's when I saw it. A picture of a woman. The file was labeled Client 47. She was sitting in a chair, eyes wide open, hands tied behind her back. The image was blurry, but I could tell she was in pain. I shouldn't have looked closer, but I did. That was my first mistake. As I stared at the image, I felt my phone buzz again. It wasn't a call this time, just a text. It was from an unknown number, but the words, "You're in this now, do your job." And that's when it hit me. I was no longer just some guy looking for a paycheck. I was a part of something much darker. I didn't want to do it. I couldn't. But as I sat there, staring at that image, I realized that refusing wasn't an option. No matter what I chose, the consequences were already set. I didn't even get the chance to think about what would happen if I said no. But then, the knock on my door came. I thought I was hearing things at first. I swear my heart was pounding in my chest. When I opened the door, there was nobody there. But there was a note, just a slip of paper. It read, "Finish your task, or we come for you." I don't know what happened after that. The world kind of blurred, and the next thing I knew, my screen was filled with more tasks, more names, more pictures. It was too much. I was already in too deep. I tried to leave, but the site wouldn't let me. And that's when I realized I wasn't just being watched, I was being hunted. Now, I don't know who's reading this, but you should know something. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to tell you this. But now that I'm telling you, there's no going back. The job isn't the problem. It's what happens if you refuse. It's what they do to you if you think you can walk away. I couldn't walk away. And you might not be able to either. I thought I was just in over my head. I really did. I thought, this will pass. I'll do this last thing, take the money, and then maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to walk away and forget about it. But let me tell you something. Once you're in, you're in. There's no walking away. You don't get to make that choice. I stared at the note on the floor. "Finish your task, or we come for you." I knew I should have called the cops, but the thought of them getting involved made my stomach twist. What if they were already watching me? What if this whole thing was a trap? And if I did report it, I'd be signing my own death sentence. The silence in my apartment was deafening. I could hear my own breath, feel the sweat running down my back. I could have sworn I heard footsteps outside my door, but when I opened it, nothing was there. Nothing but that goddamn note. I stepped back inside and locked the door, telling myself it was just paranoia, that everything would be fine. But deep down, I knew something was coming. I didn't want to open the laptop again. I didn't want to see that site. Didn't want to take another task. But I had no choice. I had already started this hell, and the only way to survive was to keep moving forward, right? I sat down at my desk, opened the laptop, and the screen lit up. Task number 3. Terminate Client 47. Complete your assignment, or consequences will follow. Terminate. The word echoed in my mind. I wasn't just deleting files anymore. This wasn't just data sorting. They wanted me to kill her. The picture was right there again. Client 47. But this time, it wasn't just a blurry image. The photo had been taken more recently. She was crying now, eyes swollen, lips cracked. She looked terrified. She didn't deserve this. No one did. I thought about closing the laptop, walking away. But the message on the screen didn't let me. It felt like the walls of the room were closing in on me. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears. I couldn't get out. And I realized just then that I was being watched. Not just by the people running this sick operation, but by whoever had been in my apartment earlier. I knew I had to act fast. The consequences were real, and they were already in motion. I typed in the encryption key that appeared on the screen, unlocking another set of files, hoping against hope that it was just a fluke, some bad dream I could wake up from. But instead of more files, what popped up on the screen were coordinates to a location. I stared at them. It wasn't just a number, it was a place. My place. A satellite image of my apartment complex, zooming in until it was just my window. That's when the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "You've seen too much," a calm voice said, barely above a whisper. "You've been given your last warning." I wanted to scream, to throw the phone out the window, but I couldn't. I was frozen. "Do the job," the voice continued, "and you will live. Refuse, and we'll take everything. It's already started." I could feel the blood draining from my face. My palms were clammy. The walls around me suddenly felt suffocating. I wasn't alone anymore. I couldn't hide. They were inside my head now, controlling my every move. Then I saw it, a message flashing across the screen. "You can't go back. You can't undo what you've seen. Finish the job, or your life ends here." It wasn't an offer. It was a command. I wanted to scream, to rip the laptop apart, but I didn't, because that's when I understood what they meant. If I didn't finish it, if I didn't comply, I wasn't just going to disappear. No, they had something much worse in mind for me. I looked back at the photo of Client 47. She wasn't just a victim, she was a warning. A reminder that the moment you get involved in this, you lose your life in a way that's far worse than death. But then, there was another message. This time, it wasn't on the screen. It was in my email inbox. It was from my mother. "I'm sorry, Evan. We couldn't save you. They're here." My heart stopped. I opened the email, trembling. The message was from a known account, my mother's email, but it didn't come from her. It was as though the sender knew everything about me, about my family. The photo attached wasn't one of Client 47. It was my mother's house. A shot from the street, like someone was standing just outside, watching them, watching her. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it. My body was frozen, my mind scrambling. I realized they weren't just threatening me. They were going after my family. They already knew everything about me. I couldn't stop now. I had no choice. I clicked on the coordinates they sent me, and my heart sank. It was just a few blocks away from my apartment, a warehouse tucked behind some rundown industrial buildings. I grabbed my keys, shoved them in my pocket, and bolted out the door. I didn't know if it was too late, but I couldn't wait. Not anymore. I wasn't going to risk losing my family. But the moment I stepped outside, something was wrong. The air felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. I ran as fast as I could, my heart pounding in my chest, but I wasn't alone. I heard footsteps behind me. I didn't dare turn around, but I could feel it. Someone was following me. Someone who knew what I had done, who knew I was about to betray them. They knew everything. As I got closer to the warehouse, the reality hit me. No matter what I did, it was too late. There was no getting out. And then, I saw him. The figure was tall, dressed all in black, his face hidden in the shadows of his hood. He stood in front of the warehouse waiting for me. It was like he knew I would come, like he was counting on it. "You've made your choice," he said, his voice chillingly calm. "Now, there's no going back." And that's when I realized the job wasn't just a job, it was a contract. a deal with something far more dangerous than I could ever imagine. And I was already too deep. I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart hammering in my chest. The figure didn't move, but his presence felt like a wall closing in around me. It was him, the person I'd been running from, without even realizing it. "You've made your choice," he repeated, his voice cold as steel. He didn't sound like a man. He sounded like a puppet master pulling strings, like he already knew how this would end. Now, there's no going back. I tried to speak, to ask him who he was, what was going on, but the words didn't come. My throat was dry, my mouth like cotton. My legs felt like they were made of lead. I couldn't move. He stepped forward, his figure illuminated by the dim light spilling from the warehouse's broken windows. I took a step back without even thinking, but he didn't stop. "Don't waste your time," he said. "We know everything about you, your family, your friends. The second you clicked that accept button, you were ours. You thought you could just work for us and forget about it, didn't you? You thought the money would make everything better." I wanted to scream, to turn and run, but it was like my body wasn't my own anymore. I couldn't escape. I could feel the cold sweat on the back of my neck. The weight of every choice I'd made, every wrong decision, settled on me all at once. I didn't have a choice, I managed to choke out. "I was just trying to survive. You said I'd be safe if I finished the job. Please." His laugh was low and devoid of humor. "You think we care about your survival? You think we care about you? You're just another pawn, Evan, another name on a list. But there's no way out. Not for you. Not for anyone who accepts our offer." He took another step forward, and I took another step back, still rooted to the spot. I could barely breathe. I didn't kill her. I didn't... The figure's eyes flashed with something that wasn't human. Something cold, hungry, almost predatory. "You don't need to. She's already gone. You think we would leave a loose end? You were part of it the moment you saw her face. You were part of the job. You will always be part of it." The weight of those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't just involved anymore. I wasn't just some contractor with a paycheck. I was in. I was one of them now, and there was no walking away. I could hear it now, the distant sound of a car engine starting, the echo of tires crunching on gravel. My mind was racing. I wanted to fight back, to scream for help, but I knew it was useless. I couldn't go back. Not anymore. I won't do it," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't even believe myself as I said it, but the words were all I had left. "I won't finish the job. You can't make me." The figure didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. He just stepped closer, his breath ragged and slow, like he was savoring the moment. "We've heard that before. You really think you can refuse us?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. A second figure appeared behind him. Two of them now, blocking the only way out. I couldn't escape them. "You should have known better than to think you could walk away. People like you don't get second chances," the first figure said, his voice low and dangerous. "Tell him," the second figure said, a man with a cold, pitiless voice. "Tell him what happens when you refuse." I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to know, but I couldn't look away. The first figure smiled, but it wasn't a smile. It was a threat. "When you refuse us, we take what's most important. Your family, your friends, anyone you care about. We leave them with a message, Evan. A reminder that there's no such thing as refusal. Not with us. Not ever." I felt my stomach twist into knots. They weren't just threatening me. They were threatening my family, the people I loved. They had already shown me what they could do. They had already shown me the consequences of stepping out of line. You're not the first to think they could walk away, the second figure said. There's a reason why no one ever does. We don't leave loose ends. We don't let anyone get away. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My heart stopped. Slowly, I pulled it out, praying I wouldn't see what I thought I would. The message on the screen was from my mom. Evan, we're sorry. They're here. Before I could process it, a sharp pain shot through my chest. I staggered back, but I didn't fall. The first figure had slipped something into my side. Quick, clean. My body went cold, like all the blood had drained from my veins. I gasped for breath, but it was like my lungs couldn't function. I reached for the wound, but there was nothing I could do. Your refusal has consequences, the figure said. Now you see what happens when you think you can defy us. I stumbled, my vision blurring. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. My whole body felt like it was shutting down. We told you, the second figure added, stepping closer. No one walks away. I tried to move, tried to fight, but my limbs were numb. The pain was too much. All I could do was stare at the two figures, who now towered over me. And then, just before the darkness closed in completely, I saw it. My phone screen flickered. Another message. It was a photo of my mom, her eyes wide open, her hands bound, just like Client 47. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. The world went dark, and I realized there was no escape. Not for me, not for anyone. Once you're in forever. And this was how it ended. And now, I'm just another name, another pawn in their game, a warning to anyone who thinks they can escape. You can't. I don't know how much time passed before I woke up. My body felt like it was made of lead, every breath shallow and strained. I could hear muffled voices, but my vision was too blurred to make out who they belonged to. The pain in my side was unbearable, like it was consuming me from the inside out. When I finally managed to open my eyes, the first thing I saw was the cold, sterile ceiling of a dimly lit room. My arms were strapped down to the bed. Panic surged through me. I tried to move, but the pain was too much. You're awake, a voice said from the corner. It was familiar, but it wasn't someone I knew. I turned my head as much as I could. The figure standing by the door wasn't one of the men from before. He looked normal, too normal. An older guy, maybe in his 40s, dressed in a plain black suit. His eyes were cold, calculating. I'm sorry about the pain, he said, his voice clipped. But you're going to need to learn a few things. I didn't care about his apology. My mom, my family, everything I loved was in danger because of the decision I made. Where are they? I managed to rasp out, struggling against the restraints. My thoughts were still foggy, but I needed to know. I had to know if they were safe. They're fine, for now, the man replied. His smile didn't reach his eyes. But that could change in an instant. You've made it clear that you want to play this game. But you can't stop now. The job's already in motion. The words hit me like a hammer. The job's already in motion. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about control, power. I was nothing but a tool, a pawn in their hands. I didn't mean to. My voice cracked. I didn't want any of this. The man stepped forward. It doesn't matter what you wanted. It never did. You accepted the terms. You thought it was just a simple job. But now, you've seen too much. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, and you're going to finish what you started. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I couldn't let this man see me break. Not now. I couldn't show weakness. I'll never work for you again, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But the words were defiant. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wasn't going to finish the job. I wasn't going to be their puppet. The man chuckled darkly, his voice sending a chill down my spine. You think you have a choice? He leaned in closer, his eyes locking with mine. You don't. Not anymore. Before I could say anything, the door behind him opened. Another man stepped in, his face grim, carrying a large briefcase. He placed it on the table beside me. This is the final step, he said, his voice low and serious. You've seen what happens to those who refuse. You've seen what we do. But now, it's time to make your decision. You're going to finish what you started, or we'll finish it for you. He opened the briefcase, and I could barely see what was inside. Papers, documents, a flash drive. But there was something else, something that made my stomach churn. A small, black box. The man pushed it toward me. The job. Complete it, and you'll walk away. Fail, and we'll take care of your family. We'll make sure you know the price of refusal. I looked at the box, the same fear crawling up my spine that I'd felt when I first clicked that damn link. There was no going back. You'll have no memory of this meeting, the first man said. We'll erase everything, and you'll return to your life. But you will finish the job. We know you will. They were right. I could feel it in my bones. They had control. They were the ones calling the shots. My fate, my family's fate, rested in their hands now. I nodded, even though every part of me screamed to refuse, to fight back. But what could I do? I wasn't just fighting them anymore. I was fighting a system that didn't care, that would destroy everything if I didn't comply. Good, the man said, standing up straight. Now, complete the job, or else. He didn't have to say more. The weight of his words hung in the air, suffocating me. As the door closed behind them, I felt the cold, hard truth settle in. There was no escape. Not for me, not for anyone. The screen flickered to life in front of me. The encrypted task was clear. Terminate Client 47. But this time, it was different. This time, I wasn't just looking at a file. I was staring at my own reflection in the screen. I wasn't just a pawn anymore. I was the one making the choices. And this choice, this final task, was the last thing that would define me. I looked at the screen one last time, knowing that once I clicked that button, there would be no coming back. And as my hand hovered over the mouse, the words from earlier echoed in my mind. You've seen too much. You've crossed the line. And there's no going back. I clicked, and everything went black. There's no happy ending to this story. Not for me, not for anyone. Because once you step into that world, once you accept their offer, you become a part of something much darker, and there's no leaving it behind. No one ever walks away, not alive.